Senator, on February of this year, you and your fellows, even from the other party, asked the President of USA to give the weapon to Ukraine.
We did.
And we have now, it's, you know, the March, so more than a month, and still we don't see much of the development in this.
I think the President is going too slow here. He's too cautious. We should give Ukraine the weapons that they could use for to defend their own freedom.
But some of other people, for example, one of our Ukrainian officials recently told the story that during his visit to Washington, he talked to some American official, and he was told that Putin basically blackmailing USA and Europe with this matter of weapon. He's telling that if you're gonna give the lethal weapon to Ukraine, I'm gonna occupy all the territory and go further.
I would think that that's true. That Putin kind of acts like a mafiosi.
But at this point, maybe it's a smart move. Do not give the weapon until.
I think it's better to give people the tools to defend their own freedom, and they will be friends of the freest country in the world, which is the United States. To make sure that people who want to fight for freedom always know they have friends in America, especially Ukrainian Americans, that they have a chance to have their voice come out through their elected senators like me, to always go to the Senate thinking about the Ukrainian community here in Chicago, that I will be your voice. I will strongly say, let Ukraine run itself and give it the tools that it needs to defend its own freedom.
How are you going to comment to the recent decision about giving some armored vehicles and drones some aid? It probably in amount like $75 million. It was.
I think we should do that. From my military background, I say the most important thing that you can give to a military unit is a radio and training, so that they all talk to each other, and so the team works together. You don't have just amateurs that run away at the first gunshot, which is what untrained people do.
What about what politicians in Washington think about the threat of another world war?
You know, because Russia is a nuclear-armed power, we have to have some sensitivity about this. That a nuclear weapon detonated on the United States would be the untold catastrophe, and we can't. We should be careful and make sure that that doesn't happen.
What do you think of this concerns? Because it sounds like a bad joke when we hear from the high politicians about concerns regarding the situation in Ukraine at that time when people basically died.
I would say I have one piece of advice for Ukrainians and the government. The American people are very not knowledgeable about Ukraine. We need a program in which the government of Ukraine actively finds sister cities for Ukrainian communities in America. You want to say like a town like Muncie, Indiana, would be a sister city with Mariupol, and so that more and more Americans would hear about what's happening and care about it.
Are you aware of situation around Mariupol right now? I'm
not. I've been. I will show you this military map that my office. We update this every day.
So you're following the.
So that people never forget Ukraine. The problem is. Because most senators don't really know Ukraine, that they'll forget about it. I do this map to show Russian aggression as they move into Ukraine, so that senators don't forget about our friends in Ukraine.
Do you hear often from maybe fellow senators or from other people, like there is no business for USA in some country in Europe?
Actually, you know, where freedom is threatened, that if there's no freedom in the world, then none of us are going to be free. As we saw in World War II with aggression, the Putin plan seems to be a lot like what Adolf Hitler said about the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, where he keeps inventing incidents to justify his own military going into a free and independent country that doesn't want the Russians in there. that the best way for allies to respond, allies are best when they stick together. I think NATO should have a much more coordinated policy on Ukraine. And there's one super serious message we should give to the Russians, and make sure that the Russians know, because the Baltic countries are part of NATO, because Poland is part of NATO, if Poland and the Baltics are affected, then all bets are off. And we would come to actually defend Poland with boots on the ground and planes in the sky to make sure that we fully live up to our NATO commitments.
What do you think of the role in this history, in this story, the role of EU and Angela Merkel particularly?
It seems a little weak that the United States is the indispensable power, and if Europe is left alone, they all look at each other and wait for who will lead, and that's only the U.S. The U.S. in this case should lead. The U.S. is the strongest power in NATO. NATO responds really strongly to the U.S. Right now I'm worried with regard to Iran and Russia. The President of the United States is looking too weak, and so they are trying to expand their influence as fast as they can, especially Putin. That the policy with regard to Putin affects America quite a bit. It means we need to become much more energy independent. With regard to energy independence, we should approve fracking to get natural gas. Already the United States is now #1 in natural gas, which was the weapon that Russia used against Europe by turning off gas supply sums. And as long as we boost American natural gas supplies, then the free world is not subject to that kind of influence.
What do you think? Why Obama is acting like that? Like you said,
with regard to foreign policy, he's very weak, and his natural instincts are to be sympathetic towards powers that are hostile to the U.S. He thinks that with a smile and a handshake, that's going to be good enough. It's not actually with mafiosi like Putin. That you got to understand the opponent that you have, that he's just going to use raw military power as far as he can to oppress the Ukrainian people. And as the guardian of democracy, NATO, the U.S. should support Ukrainians who want to be free.
But another Republican, ex-President George Bush, said that he saw the soul in Putin's eyes.
I think when we look into Putin's eyes, we see a burnt cinder. It's just all burned up in there. Too many years in the KGB, torturing people who were against the Soviets.
What do you think of this last couple of days when everybody is guessing where Putin is right now?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
That happens in dictatorships. Oftentimes, so much is concerned with the physical presence of the dictator. In the case of Putin, so much is hanging on his physical health and his presence. Remember, there was a time when Hitler's officers tried to kill him, and there was a time in which nobody knew if Hitler was alive or dead. That's just endemic to a dictatorship.
Some people saying that it may be, maybe because he's trying to figure out what to do next. We read in the media that his so-called wife was having a baby at those days, and different, I would say, gossips we hear. So what do you think the most reliable version of his?
The most reliable version would be that he's probably trying to hide something from the Russian people. Because he has near dictator powers, he will probably be successful in hiding from them.
How much this matter of war in Ukraine going to be important in your campaign? Because by my understanding, you're going to re-elect.
Exactly, I'm going to be running for re-election 2016.
So
we will be really wanting support of the Ukrainian community to select a senator who has a record of being for Ukraine and by Ukraine from the very beginning, like I always have been. We have too many soft liners. We need a good foreign policy hardliner like I am. People who understand dictators and how to stand up to them. is just like a schoolyard bully. The way to handle a bully is to stand up to him.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that.
Thank you.